They say London never sleeps, but no one told me how quiet it gets when you lose everything. Before I tell you how my life fell apart and how I found hope again, hit that subscribe button, because this story might change the way you see love, loss, and life itself. It was a cold morning in Brighton, the kind where the sea air tastes like salt and silence. I stood at the pier, watching the waves crash against the rocks, clutching a letter I had written but never sent. It had been a year since Emma left, a year since my life lost its color. She was 26, the brightest part of every room, the kind of person who smiled like she had sunlight trapped behind her teeth. And I was the one who dimmed it. When we met, I was 28, working as a junior architect in London. I had dreams of designing skyscrapers, but life had other plans. Emma was a photographer from Manchester who'd moved to London chasing light, not fame, not money, just light. That's what she said the first night we met at a small gallery near Camden. I don't take pictures, she told me, I chase light. That line stayed with me, though back then, I didn't understand what she meant. We moved in together after 6 months. Our flat was tiny, with peeling paint and a window that looked out onto a gray brick wall, but it felt like home because she was there. She filled the space with her plants, her laughter, and her wild dreams. She wanted to travel, to capture faces of strangers, to tell stories through photos. I wanted stability, predictability, the complete opposite of her chaos. But I loved her. God, I loved her more than I ever admitted. Our fights started small. Toothpaste caps, unwashed mugs, her coming home late after shoots. But over time, they grew heavier. I accused her of being irresponsible. She accused me of not understanding her. The love that once felt like sunlight turned into storms. We broke up one night after I said something cruel, something I can never take back. Maybe if you stopped chasing light, you'd stop losing people. The silence that followed hurt more than shouting ever could. She packed a small bag, looked at me one last time, and said, "You'll miss me when it's dark." Then she left. A month later, I found out she'd moved to Brighton. She sent me one message. "Don't worry, I'm okay." I didn't reply. Pride, ego, fear, I'm not sure which one stopped me, but I let her go. And then, 3 months later, I got the call. A car accident on the A23. Gone instantly. 26 years old, and she was gone. The funeral was small. Her parents, a few friends, her camera placed beside her coffin. I stood in the back, silent, clutching a photo she'd taken of me, the only one I ever liked. She'd caught me mid-laugh. I looked happy, alive. That version of me died with her. I spent months drowning in guilt. I stopped working, stopped eating properly. I'd walk around Brighton like a ghost, visiting the places she might have loved. The pier, the bakery she'd mentioned, the hill where she took sunrise photos. I wanted to find pieces of her in the air. I wrote her letters every night, hundreds of them, but never sent a single one. I kept them in a box marked, "For Emma." Every word was an apology she'd never read. One evening, a year after she died, I found myself standing on the Brighton pier again. The sun was setting, painting the sea gold and pink, the kind of light she loved. I pulled out the last letter I'd written. "Emma," it began, "I finally understand what you meant. You weren't chasing light, you were chasing life, and I'm sorry I never followed you." I tied the letter to a small paper boat and let it drift into the water. The tide carried it away, and I swear, for the first time in a year, I felt her presence, soft, forgiving. Like a whisper. After that night, I decided to live differently. I sold the flat and moved to Brighton. I started volunteering at a community center, teaching kids how to draw and design. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it felt right. One day, a little girl named Mia, about 8 years old, asked if I could draw her late mum from a photo. When I saw the picture, I froze. The background was one of Emma's favorite photography spots in Manchester. The light, the angle, everything screamed her style. I asked where it came from. Mia said, "My mum bought it from a lady named Emma who took it right before she died." It was the same photo Emma had taken the day before the accident, a sunrise over the water, soft and golden. I took that as a sign. Emma's light was still out there, touching lives, even after she was gone. Months passed, and I began hosting local art nights at the pier, combining drawings and Emma's old photographs. I called the exhibit, Chasing Light. People came from all over, artists, dreamers, wanderers. Some cried, some smiled. Every time someone asked about the name, I told them it was dedicated to someone who taught me how to see beauty in broken things. One night, after the event ended, I sat on the pier again, the same spot where it had all begun. The wind carried the scent of sea salt, and the waves shimmered under the moonlight. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I miss you." And in the distance, a flicker of light, a single lantern floating across the horizon, made me smile. Maybe it was coincidence. Or maybe, just maybe, it was her saying she forgave me. Years went by, but I never stopped writing her letters. They became my therapy, my confession. Some nights I'd imagine her sitting beside me, barefoot and laughing, teasing me for being sentimental. I started turning those letters into stories, and one of them, the last letter from Brighton, went viral online. People wrote to me saying it helped them forgive, helped them heal, helped them call the ones they'd drifted away from. That's when I realized, Emma wasn't just chasing light. She was the light, and maybe, by sharing her story, I could pass that light on. London still never sleeps, but now, neither do I, not out of sadness, but purpose. I wake early, chase sunrises, talk to strangers, take photos, live simply. I keep one of Emma's old cameras with me everywhere I go. It doesn't even work anymore, but it reminds me of her, of love that doesn't end just because a heartbeat does. Every photo I take now, every word I write, feels like a continuation of the story we never finished. Some people say grief fades. It doesn't. It just changes shape. It becomes quieter, softer, more like gratitude than pain. I still miss her every day, but instead of breaking me, her memory builds me. Because when you love someone deeply, they never really leave, they just move into the spaces between your breaths. And sometimes, when the sun sets over the Brighton pier, and the water catches that golden hue, I smile and whisper, "I found your light, Emma." And I'm still chasing it. If this story touched your heart, don't scroll away. Share it with someone who still writes letters they'll never send, with someone who's learning to live again after loss. Because maybe they need this reminder too, that love never dies, it just changes form.